Hey, good morning. Patricia Murphy here. It's Saturday. This is Seattle Now. Today we're bringing you the best from the KUOW Newsroom. First, dozens of states have sought to move away from cash bail in recent years to reduce the burdens on poor defendants. Now, public defenders are asking the Washington Supreme Court to restrict the use of bail here. Their proposal has ignited a debate about fairness and whether the court even has the authority to make these changes. KUOW's Amy Radel explains.
Katie Hurley is an attorney with King County's Department of Public Defense. She and her colleagues see people burdened by unaffordable bail that can mean longer jail stays for people who haven't been convicted of a crime.
The pretrial incarceration system becomes a system of punishment, and that is not what the system is intended to be. The system is supposed to be designed to ensure people's release and to make sure they can come back to court.
So Hurley developed a proposal that asks the Washington Supreme Court to restrict the use of bail in 3 ways. Public defenders want more people to pay 10% of their bail straight to the court where it's refundable, instead of to bail bond agents who keep that 10% fee. Public defenders want to exempt more people from bail entirely, and they want to cap bail for many misdemeanors so people can pay just $20 to the court to get out of jail. Courtney Weimer is a bail bond agent in Tacoma and president of the State Agents Association. She says when she pays someone's bail, she and the defendant's family all work together to get the person to court. She doesn't think people will show up if they have just $20 on the line.
You can go and steal up to $750 and have it be a gross misdemeanor, and I don't think they're going to care about $20. But again, if you've got your mom or grandma going, hey, you better get your butt to court, they're going to care about that.
On weekday afternoons, Weimer crosses the street from her bail bond company to Pierce County Superior Court. She says there's often little rhyme or reason to some of the judge's bail decisions. On this day, a judge releases a man with 40 arrests and a record of failing to appear in court, while imposing bail on a woman with a job and a fixed address. Washington state's constitution ensures that most people are released on bail while awaiting trial. For those in custody, Weimer says,
it's because that person either has a lengthy criminal history, a lengthy history of not appearing, or it's a dangerous crime. That's why they're sitting in jail. It's not because they're poor.
Weimer opposes changing the rules, which would largely take businesses like hers out of the equation. She thinks reducing the use of cash bail means fewer people will show up to their court dates. That's a concern for the King County Prosecutor's Office as well. Here's Staff Attorney Patrick Hines.
If a defendant, in fact, fails to appear, particularly repeatedly fails to appear, that can entirely disrupt any ability to bring that defendant's case to a resolution.
Tiffany Attrell is co-founder of the Victim Justice Coalition. She wants the proposal debated by lawmakers, not the state Supreme Court.
Nowhere in these proposed changes is there any comment on crime victims or the impact that this would have on them. And we feel like this type of sweeping changes need to be put forth before the legislature.
That's how other states have implemented bail reform. But Washington Supreme Court Justice Sal Mangia chairs the Rules Committee and says he thinks these changes are within the court's purview.
There is separation of powers here, and bail is part of the judicial process, which in my view, that is the province of our state Supreme Court.
Mangia says he received and read hundreds of comments from the public about these proposed changes. Most comments were against them on public safety grounds. But Mangia says people who pose a danger to society shouldn't be eligible for bail anyway.
If you're going to intimidate someone, try to intimidate a witness, tamper with evidence, violate a protective order, you're put in a different category.
Mangia says this bail change is meant for people who don't pose those dangers. His committee could send the proposed rules to the full court for a vote in the coming months. Bail bond agent Courtney Weimer says there are lots of things the courts could do to help people in jail, like letting them retrieve phone numbers for their family members off their cell phones so they can get released more quickly. Meanwhile, public defender Katie Hurley says she'd like to see the courts do more to support defendants who miss court dates because they're homeless or lack transportation. Amy Radel, KUOW News.
Next, for years, the Yakima Nation has fought to protect a sacred area in south central Washington from development. They say a proposed energy storage project will destroy this area, known as Mother of All Roots. NWPB's senior environmental correspondent Courtney Flatt went to a ceremony there.
High above the Columbia River, a group of young girls from the Yakima Nation perform a welcome dance. They flow together around in a line, occasionally extending a foot to the side and reaching their hands toward the ground. This area near Goldendale is called Pushpum, or Mother of All Roots. Elaine Harvey is a member of the Rock Creek Band of the Yakima Nation. She's fought to protect Pushpum for years.
On a good day, on a clear day, you can see all the way down to Sisters Mountains. And on a good day, you can see Mount Rainier and Mount St. Helens over here. This is a really high point.
Pushpum is home to a seed bank for traditional medicines and roots. It's also a spiritually important spot for the tribe. Bronsko Jim Jr., or BJ, is the chief of the Rock Creek Band.
Nobody planted these foods. Nobody brought it here. It was intended for us to be here.
Yakima Nation members are gathering here, along with other tribes and environmental activists, to stand against an energy storage site that could soon be built nearby. It's called the Goldendale Energy Storage Project. Developers say it's needed more than ever, as the Northwest uses more carbon-free power. Eric Steinley is with Rye Development, which is getting the project off the ground. He says they're working to mitigate damage from the potential project. In earlier interviews, Steinley said he believes this is one of the best places to build this type of project in North America.
This particular site has been studied for pump storage for more than 30 years.
The tribe has pushed back against two similar proposals at this same spot in the past. Harvey says, just don't build it here.
I believe we can go green, but in a responsible manner and not destroy and shrub step.
Recently, the project got a key federal license. That means construction could start very soon. Simone Anter is a senior attorney for Columbia Riverkeeper. The environmental nonprofit is helping fight the Goldendale Energy Storage Project.
It's not built yet, there's no shovels in the ground, and so there's a real possibility that there won't be.
Anter says Columbia Riverkeeper plans to ask a federal court to review this license. The Yakima Nation says they've lost land to things like dams and wind turbines, and they say they're now tracking more than 80 proposed projects on ceded lands. That includes renewable energy projects, new transmission lines, and more data centers.
And I feel like it's coming too fast, and our people are pushed aside.
Come on out, everyone. Let's do it intertribal. We're going to go to the right.
To show support, members from tribes across Washington and Oregon came to Pushpum, often joining together in intertribal dances. The Klamath tribes in south central Oregon are fighting a similar project. It's called Swan Lake Energy Storage. They say it destroys sacred rock stack features and culturally important foods. William Ray Jr. is the Klamath tribe's chair.
The struggle between our nations and Indian country, it crosses every border of Indian country since the coming of the non-Indian, and it's been a battle for literally our survival.
Tribes say they'd like to be at the table when energy projects are first proposed. They say that could avoid these sorts of high-stake conflicts. I'm Courtney Flatt at Pushpum, outside Goldendale, Washington.
And finally, when beavers build dams, they help create habitat for other species. But when they build near humans, those dams aren't always appreciated. NWPB's Rachel Sun reports on how some humans are trying to strike a balance between their needs and the beavers.
A few miles south of Pullman, Washington, hobby farmer John Brown is showing me his property. We're stopped beside a stream lined by poplar trees.
And all these hybrid poplars that you see here were planted in the last 20 years or so. That, I think, may have been part of the reason that I attracted beavers.
For over a decade, Brown says, he fought the beavers. The animals might be cute, but they also have a propensity for damaging trees. They can also threaten existing buildings and landscaping near waterways. Brown points out one poplar tree that leans over a walking path because the beavers chewed through its roots. Then he points to rows of flowers nearby.
And this is a project. These are all daffodils, and they follow every fence line. And I have lost probably 1,000 of those to beavers. They flooded, and daffodils couldn't tolerate the water.
But, he says, about 4 years ago, his battle with the beavers changed.
I was tearing out 6 dams a day up and down the stream, and I accidentally fell into the stream in January. And I said, that's it. I'm not doing any more of this.
Brown is using a different approach. With the help of a local nonprofit, he installed something called a pond leveler. Those work by allowing water to quietly pass through a pipe that's been installed in the dam. Melissa McKelvey is an assistant regional habitat program manager for the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife. She says pond levelers
allows enough flow to pass through that dam that we're able to abate some of the ponding that's occurring that's putting people's structures at risk.
Pond levelers aren't 100% foolproof. Sometimes sediment-heavy water or especially industrious beaver families can necessitate additions or added maintenance. In Brown's case, staff at a local nonprofit are helping install another leveler soon because the pond has been rising again. Still, McKelvey says, those pond levelers are often a more practical long-term solution than simply removing the beavers and destroying the dams.
When you are trapping, you have good habitat. And so the habitat, there's going to be beavers that move in. You're probably going to have just other ones move in, like, a year later, 6 months later.
Environmental groups say they're still working to get people on board and familiar with the idea. Brown says some of his neighbors think he's crazy, but the beavers aren't all bad. Brown's pasture stays green in the summer thanks to the added water. And there's a lot more wildlife. Near the pond, there's a constant thrum of calls from red-winged blackbirds, California quail, mallard ducks, ravens, kestrels, geese, and more. All in all, Brown says he's willing to put up with some hassle for the benefit those beavers create.
Just all the birds and things, they have a choice of the wheat fields or coming here with trees and water. I had 3 deer here yesterday. Yeah, it's really nice.
Reporting near Pullman, Washington, I'm Rachel Sun.
Appreciate you listening to Seattle Now, and thank you to our generous financial donors for your support. Help us out. Click the link in the show notes. Follow and rate the show on your favorite podcast app. Our production team includes Caroline Chamberlain Gomez, Vaughn Jones, Andy Hurst, Brooklyn Jamerson Flowers, and Paige Browning. Greg Kramer does our theme music. Seattle Now and KUOW Public Radio are members of the NPR network. I'm Patricia Murphy. See you soon.